PSYCHO-PICTOGRAPhy by Vernon, The New Way to Use the Miracle Power of Your Mind. Chapter 8. How to Live Every Day to Its Fullest Measure. Life is worth living when you understand its rich worth. This understanding is the purpose of this chapter. Let's start with the question, where are you living? What mental world do you inhabit? It is important to find out. A story from ancient Egypt tells of a young prince who lived with his father, the pharaoh, in a palace along the banks of the river Nile. Restless, as young men are, the prince set out one morning in search of adventure. The pharaoh warned, "Stay near the safety and refreshment of the river. Don't wander into the dry desert." The prince heeded the advice for a while, but curiosity and carelessness led him away from the Nile and into the desert. He soon lost his sense of direction. Confusion and anxiety set in. The pangs of thirst and the dangers of wild beasts made every step a torment. The pharaoh, watching from afar, saw his son's despair but could not help. Under Egyptian law, anyone who willingly wandered into the desert had to find his own way back. There was a way out, but every wanderer had to see it for himself. Sensing that his suffering was needless and that there was a way out, the prince went to work. By persistently eliminating each false direction in turn, he finally found his way back to the palace. That story applies to the physical world, but has a perfect parallel in your mental world. Where are you living mentally? In the dryness of confusion and tiredness? It is really unnecessary. Think back to a time, perhaps a few years ago, when you were free. Catch a glimpse of the refreshing days you used to have. There is where you can live once more. No wide-awake man wanders unnecessarily in a real desert. He walks out. But people do not see that they unnecessarily waste themselves by remaining in a mental wilderness. They fail to understand their rightful refreshment found in a mental palace. They mistakenly take esoteric parables as pleasant little lessons, but do not see them as life-liberating truths. We must wake up. In which mental world are you living? It is really quite easy to tell. If you live every day with inner ease and luxury, you occupy a mental palace. If not, then you have a bright experience just ahead. You can travel to such a luxurious life. For the next few weeks, use the guides at the front of this book. Each of them is a road home. Who is living your life? The following dialogue took place during a discussion. I asked someone, "Who is living your life for you?" "Why, no one. I live my own life." "What causes you to live the kind of life you live? What makes you do what you do?" "My attitudes and viewpoints and convictions. Obviously, the way we think determines the way we act." "And where did you get these attitudes? How come you think the way you do? Where did you get your viewpoints towards sex, politics, religion, people, and everything else?" "Oh, I picked them up from other people in my early years." "Then they're not a part of your original self, they are merely acquired?" "Yes, that must be so." "Then you are living according to the attitudes and viewpoints of other people who pass them on to you?" "Well, yes." "Then you're not really living your own life?" "I see what you mean. I'm repeating what others told me. In a sense, I am living their life." What if many of these acquired attitudes are wrong, unrealistic, damaging? For instance, suppose you believe that it's impossible to switch from anxiety to happiness. then I pay the price for that false belief. Do you like paying the price? Not at all. Must you continue to suffer from false viewpoints? No. Why not? Because I can drop them. Since they are merely acquired, like uncomfortable clothing, I can shed them like clothing. Then for the first time, I'll live my own life. You like that idea? I'm ready. How to return to yourself. What a dawning appears to the man or woman who earnestly inquires, who is living my life for me? Am I really thinking for myself, or am I unknowingly projecting acquired ideas which may be all wrong? Such a sincere person begins to see that he is not his acquired viewpoints, not his adopted beliefs, not his habitual reactions. He begins to separate the true from the false. He divides the assumed self from the real self. He sees that he is not these thought clothes, so he takes them off. You are not your thought clothes any more than you are the grey suit or the blue dress you wear. As we discard our conditioned ideas about ourselves, we discover who we really are. And when you know who you really are, a miracle happens. Suffering and sorrow and conflict go away forever. And I assure you that these are not mere words. They are living truths that you can experience for yourself. You sometimes see a television drama unfold like this. A spy is assigned to penetrate enemy territory. He is given a new name and supplied with a set of false identifications. He is taught to speak and act and think in a way foreign to his real nature. He is trained to imitate the manners and customs of the enemy land. In short, he assumes a false identity. He spends the next 2 or 3 years in the foreign land acting out his role. The unnatural manners and customs become habitual. His assignment ends. The spy returns to his home country. Trouble begins. His false role comes into conflict with his original life. He is awkward and confused. He can't separate his false self from his original self. He doesn't know who he is. But he is courageous and wise. Seeing the problem, he goes to work on himself. He gradually drops his acquired acts and thoughts. He returns to his true identity. All is well once more. He lives in peace. This is what happens to people. Having unconsciously taken on foreign identifications, they no longer know who they really are. So enters conflict and pain. But like that spy, we can be wise. We can gradually drop all false ideas and identifications. We can return to ourselves. It is perfectly possible for you to discover who you really are. What a delightful surprise. Sometimes in our meetings we have advanced discussions. We plunge into deeper psychological waters where the more precious pearls are found. One such dive sprang from the remark, "I know I'm imprisoned, but haven't the slightest idea who my jailer is." If only you knew how free you are. Really? I'm actually at inner liberty right now. Yes, but you don't see this as yet. You are your own unconscious jailer. Your problems and griefs and conflicts are of your own making. Why don't I see this as yet? Because your false self lives in dread of its dethronement. Whenever it suspects that you are looking for a way out, it gets terrified and it fights. This, try to see, is why you get an extra scared the moment you determine to break free. Sensing a threat to its existence, the false self fires its full arsenal of weapons at you. What are its weapons? For one thing, the false self tries to make you feel guilty and disloyal at the thought of abandoning it. Also, it makes full use of man's mental laziness. It slyly whispers the greatest lie of all, that no state really exists other than its own miserable one. This is its chief weapon of terror, to hint that your plunge away from the false self is a plunge toward a terrifying nothingness. But the truth is, this new nothingness turns out to be a world of fantastic light and freedom. While the false self is causing all this commotion, what is the true self doing? Gently trying to get you to listen to the truth that you are free and always have been. It urges you to see that you are not a slave to the illusions whispered by the false self. It tells you that the false self is bluffing, and that you have the power to call that bluff. Remember, the true self is the voice of truth. This is the most thrilling idea I've ever heard in my life. If only you knew how free you are. How to learn the secrets of living magic. The entire purpose of mental pictures is a change in self. This comes before all else. Your basic plan is to change the way you think, speak, act, feel, respond and perceive. In other words, we are after living magic. Attempts to change exterior conditions without first altering the inner self are a sad waste of energy. A person can go ahead and switch his residence or profession or friends, but unless self-change comes first, he will not find lasting satisfaction in them. As we change, our world changes. The author of The Conquest of Illusion explains it like this. When we have seen the vision of reality, our world is changed, utterly and almost beyond recognition, and yet nothing has changed in things as they are. It is but that we have gained a new vision. It is the new vision which is born when man is freed from the tyranny of illusion, that the whole world is changed and appears radiant with love and beauty, apparently utterly changed, though the change really is in man himself alone. Suppose you enter a dark room and flip the light switch, but nothing happens. The room remains dark. You find that the light bulb is at fault. Now, you wouldn't keep flipping the switch in hopes that the bulb would somehow come to life. No, you wouldn't do that. You would realise that that bulb has no capacity for illumination. So you wisely decide that a change is needed. You set aside the useless bulb and replace it with an entirely new and lively one. You now have a different kind of bulb, one capable of giving you an entirely new look at that room. Now you see things clearly. You can walk safely and enjoyably around the room. It becomes comfortable at last. Likewise, a change in the inner self illuminates everything on the outside. Our day becomes living magic. How to banish boredom. What about the problem of boredom? We clearly see it to be a painful state, one that drains life of its richness. What can be done? The story is told of the man who sat at a piano and tapped endlessly upon a single key. Day after day, he sat down at the piano to strike that one key only. It bored him to tears. Whenever his family asked him why he played the same boring key, he replied, "I don't know why I do it, I just do it." Whenever his neighbours complained of the monotonous note, he answered, "I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I wish someone would tell me how to strike another note. A famous teacher of the piano was finally called in. He examined the problem, then announced, "The reason you play that single note is because you don't see that there are many other notes to play. In short, you are hypnotized by that single note." The man replied, "But that's silly. I can see every one of those other notes. There are 87 of them. I see plainly enough." "No," the teacher explained. "If you really saw those notes, you would try to play them. Everyone wants to play more than one note. When they don't, it's because they don't really see them. You think that that one note is all there is. You are hypnotized by it." "Really?" asked the bewildered man. "Really. You see, you are bored because you play that one note only. You play that one note only because you think that no other notes exist. You must come out of your hypnosis. You must see the other notes. You must experiment with them. And you must not be afraid of the strange sound you hear at first. As you play, they will become more and more familiar and less frightening. Then that familiarity will turn to harmony, and then you will never be bored again. You will have the entire keyboard to play upon." Boredom indicates lack of insight into the vast expanse of life. We hypnotically play the single note we see, perhaps that of worry or depression, not realizing that such single notes can produce no harmony. Our primary aim must be to become inwardly free individuals. With that as our healthy aim, we learn the new notes that give us variety and harmony. The person with an enthusiasm for the truth about life need never worry about his enthusiasm for life. How to have freedom from the negative self. Deep down inside, every man suspects that he really has only one problem. He somehow realizes, however dimly, that his problems are caused by his negative self. Even when he pretends to others that all is well, he knows he is not kidding himself. But this suspicion that something is wrong can be the means for making things right. An admission that we are on the wrong track enables us to switch directions. The truth is within every man. It bursts through and destroys the negative self upon our honest invitation. Then life is lived in full measure. Henry David Thoreau's testimony is ample evidence that the full life can be found. I learned this, at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavours to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. He will put some things behind, will pass an invisible boundary. New, universal and more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within him, and he will live with the license of a higher order of things. In proportion as he simplifies his life, the laws of the universe will appear less complex, and solitude will not be solitude, nor poverty, poverty, nor weakness, weakness. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them. One phrase fascinates me. In proportion as he simplifies his life, the laws of the universe will appear less complex. Let's investigate. A man living in a large city is beset by a multitude of laws and regulations and statutes. Wherever he turns, he finds a traffic law, or a building code, or a merchandising prohibition in his way. His liberty to do this or that is restricted. Suppose that man moves to the countryside, to the simpler life. Because he is no longer under the laws of the big city, he moves about with much greater liberty. That is what happens to the man who removes himself from his own negative self. Because he moves away from his negative emotions and false ideas, he lives in liberty. The nice part of all this is that this is something any man can really do for himself. The greatest inspiration on earth. A college professor asked his students, "What, in your opinion, is the greatest inspiration on earth?" The replies came, "A pink sunset, a sublime thought, a happy person, a colourful garden." The professor said, "Yes, all of those are certainly inspiring. Let me give you my reply to that question. The greatest inspiration on earth is something that really works." The professor explained, "My idea of inspiration is whatever adds practical value to mankind. It includes the ideas you supplied. And inspiration is something that actually, in a very real way, makes people happier and healthier." Stop and consider that idea for a moment. It is both strange and attractive. The greatest inspiration on earth is something practical. We usually don't associate inspiration with practical matters of life, but we should. I call this to your attention for an interesting reason. In reading these pages, some may inquire, "The ideas inspire me, but are they practical? Will they make my daily life easier and happier? Can they help me in making decisions, lowering mental pressures, in doing things the easy way?" The answer? There is nothing more practical than the truth that inspires. In classwork, we prove it by dialogues like these. What conquers nervousness? The truth about our rightful calm. Then what is more practical than the truth? What cures heartache? The finding of the true self. Then what is more useful than finding yourself? The greatest inspiration on earth is the truth. That is because nothing works like the truth. People should try it. Nothing is more practical. What is more practical than being happy? Take a look at attitudes. "You have stated many times," said a woman in our group, "that stuffy living is caused by our wrong attitudes. I can grasp this in a way, yet why do I continue with these self-destructive attitudes? Because you don't really see that they are working against you. In one way or another, you are justifying them. How difficult, and yet how enriching it is for someone to really see what he's doing to himself. Why is it so hard for me to change my attitudes? Because you identify with them. You think that you are your attitudes. You think that your abandonment of these attitudes will leave you empty, a nobody, without support. But this is exactly what you must dare to do. You must drop your false mental viewpoints without immediately substituting others. At first, this emptiness will leave you somewhat disturbed, puzzled. But stick with the vacancy, dare to face the emptiness. Then it will be filled with truth, just as a lake with brackish water must be drained before being refilled with fresh water. Dare to be without a harmful attitude, such as resentment or self-pity. Is that the idea? Can we experiment in our daily lives with this? Yes, and with fine results. Select, for example, some negative attitude or feeling you have toward another person. Dare to be without it. Have the courage to drop it entirely. In time, the light will dawn. That negative feeling will vanish completely. You will never again be bothered by your own attitude toward that person. You are chained to anyone you dislike. Have you ever noticed that? Watch it. See that you are the slave of anyone toward whom you have a negative feeling. But drop the attitude and the other person vanishes from your emotional life. So does your pain vanish. Can this technique be applied to other situations such as depression? Of course. It is your attitude toward a situation that causes depression, not the situation. You may not believe this as yet, but experiment with it and you will see all depression is totally unnecessary. How to love. What about the positive virtues like love, patience, humility that make for a rich life? How can we acquire them? They appear spontaneously when you find yourself. The true self possesses all these natural virtues, but there is something of extreme importance for you to remember. Every genuine virtue has its counterfeit. The counterfeit of humility could be an assumed pose for the purpose of making a good impression. Someone may want something from you, and so he presents a pleasant and kindly manner, but it will vanish quickly enough if he is thwarted. His real nature then reveals itself, perhaps in rage or arrogance. You must be very careful that you do not assume that other people are what they appear to be. You must be a wise judge of human nature. A positive virtue, the real thing, is not something that you do. It is something that you are. A genuinely kindly man and his kindness are a single unit. They are one. A really gentle person cannot help acting with kindness any more than a cruel person can help but act with cruelty. Do not be afraid to face the existence of negative attitudes and emotions within you. Simply see that they are there. Remember, they are not the real you. They are acquired negativities. Once you really see this, you will go to work on yourself in a new way. How to have a mental magic party. I want to supply you with some profitable facts about a mental magic party. Briefly defined, a mental magic party is a gathering of men and women who earnestly want to change their lives. This change can mean many things, including freedom from negative emotions, finding a genuine purpose in life, and discovering practical answers to everyday problems. Definite progress is achieved by those in attendance. A businessman sees that he is quite capable of handling a complex financial problem with inner tranquility. A homemaker finds a new way to clear up a crisis with the children. A married couple discovers that a change in attitude turns into a miracle of niceness in their relationship. Difficulties relating to sex are understood and dissolved. Progress comes through understanding the same ideas we are covering in this book. Self-knowledge plays its vital role. So does the capacity to listen with a receptive mind. Those attending a mental magic party learn practical rules for their human relations. Scoring advances is something like an army battling along a 10-mile front. It attacks first here, then there, scoring a small victory in this area and a smashing triumph at another. And so it goes, with the entire front moving ahead steadily. The question and answer periods of a mental magic party always provide some helpful ideas. Examples. Question. What has the inner life of a man to do with outer affairs? For instance, how can we have better government? Answer. The final answer to better government is not in more laws or change laws, but in the personal integrity and maturity in the characters of both our lawmakers and those who vote them into office. Question: is it wrong to try to get things from other people? Answer: it is not wrong to want something from someone else as long as your desire does him no harm. Question: in spite of all my studies and activities, I'm not really any better off than I was before. What can I do? Answer: moving from one corner to another in a stalled elevator does not carry you upward. Make sure you are using the genuine principles of progress, such as self-honesty and sincere intention. Upward movement can be felt. There is no mistaking it. Picture an oasis. At our meetings, we follow the course of action urged in this book, that is, the use of illustrations and examples, called mental pictures. One evening, someone spoke up. You once said that in the psychological world, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I know that this is taught in the New Testament, but why is it so? How come a man with a fair amount of insight tends to get more, while the person who has very little tends to lose even that which he has? Because life is not static. You either grow or you regress. The choice is yours. Here is a mental picture to make it clearer. Picture a green oasis in the middle of the desert, rich with cool water and refreshing shade. It offers a peaceful and healthy life. A mile away, out in the hot desert, a man is lost. But he is close enough to the oasis to catch a glimpse of it. He can see the difference between the greenery of the oasis and the grey sands around him. Because he can see merely that much, he is encouraged to find more. And so he heads for the oasis, growing closer, richer with each step. But take another wanderer, 3 miles distant from the oasis. Because he is farther away, he is less likely to look and be encouraged. So he turns in the wrong direction and wanders even farther and farther away. Because he can see nothing of the oasis, he wanders in despair and bitterness. In that state, he is likely to see an illusionary oasis, a mirage, and so his life is wasted in stumbling toward one illusion after another. But the point is this: the closer we come to the truth, the more we value it. Then, because we value it more, we come even closer. That is why the rich get richer. They earn it with their own effort. Any wanderer can change direction at any time. No one needs to be lost. Any man or woman, through right action, can find the oasis. You, the reader, can form your own study group by using plans provided in Chapter 15. The object is to meet with other men and women who suspect the existence of an oasis and who want to search together. The beauty of it all is that the oasis really exists. For your richer day. 1. Life is worth living when you understand the rich worth of life. 2. Walk out of the mental desert. 3. Live your own life. It belongs to you. 4. You find your genuine self as you discard all acquired attitudes about yourself. Discard them. 5. If you only knew how free you are. 6. Boredom disappears forever as you catch an insight into the vast expanse of life. You can catch this insight. 7. Life becomes richer and more meaningful as you find liberty from the negative self. 8. The greatest inspiration on earth is something practical, something that really works. Therefore, the truth is utterly practical. 9. The positive emotions of love and affection and patience appear when you find your true self. 10. Plan a psychopictography study group. Tested plans are supplied in Chapter 15.